Hi, I'm CNBC producer Katie Kramer. Welcome to Squawk Pod. Today, it is the final countdown. We are just hours away from a government funding deadline that could keep federal workers unpaid, agencies closed, and air travel possibly snarled. So, where do we stand? CNBC's Emily Wilkins on the Capitol Hill scramble.
If we go into a shutdown, come out of a shutdown, who winds up getting the blame?
Republicans and Democrats.
Mr. Vice President, so just to be clear, is there room for negotiation here with Democrats?
And the White House gearing up for a fight.
So I think we're headed to a shutdown because the Democrats won't do the right thing.
House Speaker Mike Johnson joins us and points across the aisle at Democrats for holding up progress.
Hakeem Jeffries and I are friends. We have a great relationship of trust, okay? But I'm telling you that their political position right now is pure politics. And they're doing this for Chuck Schumer's backside, not for the American people.
The key healthcare tax credits that hang in the balance.
They're trying to make a December policy debate the issue of the day, and that's not true. Today, all we got to do is keep the government open.
And the response, Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries.
It's not a bipartisan spending agreement. It was a Trump partisan spending agreement.
On the high stakes and quickly moving back and forth.
Speaker Johnson should call Republican members of Congress back from the vacation that they're on so that we can actually arrive at a bipartisan agreement to keep the government funded.
All that today and more. It's Tuesday, September 30th, 2025. Squawk Pod begins right now.
All right, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Squawk Box right here on CNBC. We're live from the NASDAQ market site in Times Square. I'm Becky Quick along with Joe Kernen and Andrew Ross Sorkin. And yes, we are awaiting a potential shutdown. The Reds, I didn't wear it for the Reds, but okay.
Why didn't you say yes? I did wear it.
I wore it for you for the Reds, Joe. Are you happy? Congratulations.
That does
you
make
made
me
it to the
happy.
postseason.
That's, like I said, that's the good news.
That's
Bad
the
news.
good
It's tonight, 9 o'clock.
Hey,
Dodgers are good.
At least you can say you made it.
Yeah. Well, the Mets. Reds didn't even win the game that they needed to win. That
So
would have
the Mets
lost.
yeah.
To the Marlins. Didn't score a run. I mean, this epic. You're kind of a Mets fan, aren't you? Or
Mets fan.
I kind of
like a Mookie Wilson Mets fan.
Kind of a collapse
Sort of a generation.
Yeah.
It collapses.
Strawberry.
You need
Yeah.
a stronger word than collapse for the last 6 weeks. I don't know what it is.
It is the final day of the third quarter, and the major averages have really had a spectacular quarter. Right now, the Dow is up by about 5%. The S&P is up by more than 7%, and the NASDAQ is up by close to 11% for this quarter. So it has been a very sharp quarter of gains for all of the major averages. In fact, also check out the Russell 2000 Small Cap Index. It was up by 12% for the quarter to date, or is on track for that. Of course, one more trading day that we've got to get through. That's the best performance we've seen since the fourth quarter of 2023 for the small cap index. So we'll watch that pretty closely, too.
Here we go. Heads up.
Okay. Well, we met with the president for the first time since all of these issues started, even though we have requested repeated meetings with Leader Thune, Speaker Johnson, and the president. We have very large differences.
Tom, that government shutdown, it is now set to take place at midnight tonight. If Democrats and Republicans can't continue to get to a last-minute deal, Emily Wilkins joins us in D.C. right now with the latest. Where are we?
I mean, Andrew, at this point, the government's just hurtling towards a shutdown. There doesn't seem to be any sort of off-ramp here. You know, the Senate, they are expected to vote later today on continuing current funding until November. That's unlikely to get the needed 7 or 8 Democrats that would have to join Republicans to actually get that measure passed. They've got that 60-vote threshold. Democrats are just continuing to push for a number of healthcare things, specifically those tax credits to prevent an increase in some insurance costs if you get your insurance through the Affordable Care Act marketplace. And yesterday we had that big White House meeting, but after it, the tone was not particularly productive. Vice President J.D. Vance said that Democrats were holding the government hostage to get what they want.
I think we're headed to a shutdown because the Democrats won't do the right thing. I hope they change their mind, but we're going to see.
Meanwhile, Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer said after the meeting that it would ultimately be up to Trump to make the final call.
It's now in the president's hands. He can avoid a shutdown if he gets the Republican leaders to go along with what we want.
So both sides really dug in there, and Trump so far has not weighed in on what he would like to see with the Affordable Care Act tax credits. And at this point, we're already seeing signs of exactly what we're going to expect in a shutdown situation. Bureau of Labor Statistics confirmed yesterday that if there is still a shutdown on Friday, we're not going to be able to get job numbers that could impact data collection. And of course, guys, that's just one of hundreds of things that could happen as we go into a government shutdown. Andrew?
It affects our show and what we get to say about Friday. Can I ask you a question? I see some light somehow. I just can't tell whether Democrats would agree to the period between the CR, do the CR, and then you have time before Obamacare is set up. There's ways of doing this that I think they talked about. I think J.D. Vance even said they had some reasonable ideas. I think the president said some reasonable ideas. Right now, you can make a lot of money as an insurance company signing up people that don't even know that they have the Obamacare because the subsidies from COVID are still intact. But there's a way of tightening that up a little that I think Republicans would agree to that would satisfy Democrats. But it's good. I think Republicans are going to say it has to be after you do the CR.
Joe, that's exactly, you summed it up really well. I mean, a lot of them have said, look, we're open to a potential extension. We have to address fraud. A number of them have also talked to me about putting an income cap, going back to that as far as who's actually eligible to get the tax credits. And there's, again, bipartisan support on this. That's the reason why of all the things Dems are asking for, we keep coming back to this one. It's actually doable. But yes, Republicans have basically said, look, we have to keep the government funded. These are two separate issues. We're not going to combine them into one. Once we fund the government, then we can talk about it. But for Democrats, I think a number of folks in their party, A, they want to show a fight right now. They want to use the leverage that they have. And B, they believe that this is a winning issue for them. That when you talk about healthcare, when you talk about insurance prices rising, that this is something they can actually push for and potentially get. But I know I asked Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries the other day, can there be a way that if there's just a verbal agreement, Democrats might go ahead and agree to give the votes to keep the government open? Jeffrey said it has to be in legislation. Would be interested to know how many Senate Democrats also hold that position.
It was a Freudian slip was what that was.
But Emily, the idea of having this in legislation, their point is they don't trust them. They don't think they will go ahead with this. But at the same time, this is the Democrats kowtowing to the progressives who are up in arms over this, said that they are, ready to primary Schumer if he doesn't give them what they want.
Becky, that's absolutely the dynamic here. I mean, you saw last time it was Schumer and a number of other more moderate Senate Democrats go along back in March to keep the government open. You saw a huge blowback to that and a lot of concerns that were raised about whether Democrats were going to be able to try to fight and push back. And the fact of the matter is, when you have a Republican trifecta like you do right now, there really isn't a lot of ability for the minority party to push back. And so that's part of what they're doing here. It is a bit of messaging in terms of the base, indeed, as well as just playing politics as far as what they're trying to get done. And I think, of course, the big question is, if we do go into a shutdown, are we going to see those massive federal layoffs that the Trump White House has threatened? And what is that ultimately going to look like? Because from the guidance, it's not clear if that could be 10,000. It's not clear. It could be 100,000. It could be even more than that. And then what impact is that going to have on the economy?
Well, I can tell you when we have Leader Thune and Johnson, I can tell you, here's what some of the talking points would be. The Democrats voted 13 times under the Biden administration for a clean CR. We're going to hear that there is a bill on Schumer's desk that keeps the government open, and all you need to do is bring it up and vote on it. So when you say it's Trump, if you don't do what we want, we're shutting down the government, there's no way that translates to it's Trump's fault we're shutting down the government. That translates to, if you don't do what we want, even though we're the minority party, we're shutting down the government. So I think Trump's right. Now, maybe, Schumer's got his own problems with AOC, and he acquiesced, I guess, last time. But it's a walking, quacking duck with a yellow bill. We know what it is.
the situation, I mean, if you look at previous shutdowns in 2018 and 2013, it does kind of mirror a bit of a situation where there is a smaller group. They want to be able to get something done. They try to use the shutdown scenario to get leverage. And I think there is a big question. I mean, when everything comes out in the wash, if we go into a shutdown, come out of a shutdown, who winds up getting the blame? And at this point, either side is kind of pointing the finger saying, hey, it's the other guys, it's not us. I think it'll wind up being up to the American people probably to decide that at the end of the day.
Pointing the finger, you said. Okay, you're right. Yeah, point.
Thank you, Emily. We will. Sounds like you're not going to sleep for a while, so we'll see.
Cat naps, Emily. That's the
We'll
key.
see you in the morning tomorrow. See how the movie plays out at 11:58 and 11:59.
So Friday's less. Better watch how important we talk about that jobs number. We're not getting the jobs number on Friday. There's no way. Right?
You're with Polymarket.
If we go into,
Why,
this, I think 70%.
Polymarket says it's
99. Yeah, definitely. That we're going to shut it down. They're going to shut it down.
I'm still holding out a semblance of hope.
Boeing has reportedly started work on a successor to the company's troubled 737 MAX aircraft. The Wall Street Journal says plans are in the early stages at this point, but Boeing CEO Kelly Ortberg traveled to a Rolls-Royce factory in Great Britain earlier this year to talk about a new jet engine. The 737 MAX, as you probably know, suffered 2 fatal crashes in late 2018, early 2019, then a blowout of a door plug that wasn't a door on a flight early in 2024. In a statement to the Journal, Boeing said it remains focused on its recovery plan. So I don't know whether they confirmed that or I guess you're always thinking
if it's not a door, it's not a door plug. It's a hole plug.
No, but we still call it a door plug.
We do. Another fintech firm looking to tap the public markets, Wealthfront filing for a U.S. IPO. Its plans to list on the NASDAQ under the ticker WLTH. Wealthfront helped popularize the robo-advisor style of automated investing. According to its filing, it had about $88 billion in assets on its platform and served 1.3 million customers as of the end of July. And in fiscal 2025, it generated about $195 million in net income on about $310 million in revenue. By the way, did you see the revenue numbers for OpenAI? Something like $4.3 billion or something. And it's still not profitable because the costs were north of $6 billion.
Right. The question that I don't know on that front is how much of it is a function of just the continued investment? Meaning if they just stopped, now I don't, obviously they would have
a lot of it is R&D.
They'd have a problem if they just stopped.
Yeah, right.
But if they just stopped, could it be a profitable business? I think sometimes they say it could in certain markets.
Comparing it to the Amazon, right, where you could have been profitable much earlier, but they chose to keep building. But the revenue numbers are just mind-blowing, how much money they're bringing in. And then you think about not being profitable because they're spending so much more.
Oh, my goodness. They're on the hook for more money than they can fathom. I mean, it's shocking.
Yeah. Big numbers, especially when we're talking about this IPO with a few $100 million in revenue and net income. It's like, let's talk about a bigger company.
Once Upon a Farm, actress Jennifer Garner, that's her baby food company, Once Upon a Farm, filing for an IPO on the New York Stock Exchange and SEC paperwork. The company said it increased its 6-month revenue as of June 30th by 66%, though it acknowledged it has a history of losses. And if you just look a quick glance, that would be $110 million. I was just wondering what kind of numbers we're talking about, which is pretty amazing. $110 million for the first 6 months in revenue for 2025, up from 65.8 same period in 2024. But as we said, not profitable as far as I can tell at this point. She has a lot of commercials. I think that she does stuff for the credit card company more than for her own Once Upon a Farm.
Yeah, what is that, Capital One?
Yeah, it's in your wallet, I think. Those guys, apparently Spike and Chuck and Jennifer and Jim Nance, they're really good friends because they drive around together in cars and, and they talk to Willie Nelson.
You're talking about the commercials now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cheese will be next.
Still to come on Squawk Pod, hours away from a government shutdown, House Speaker Republican Mike Johnson is pushing Democrats to accept what he calls a clean continuing resolution.
They're afraid of the far left corners of their base, and they have to show that they're putting up a fight. At what cost?
And an echo of Vice President J.D. Vance's words.
We didn't shut the government down during the entire 4 years of Biden. You know why? Because we did the right thing in the minority.
Then later, current Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries responds to Speaker Johnson.
Well, that's all a lie.
The shutdown story continues right after this break. This is Squawk Pod with Joe, Becky, and Andrew.
Stand by, Joe. His mic, cue.
It's the final day of the third quarter.
I am so getting this.
and a government shutdown is looming. We all got sick. We all got sick.
Who's the
She got sick first.
I got sick first. It was a different.
It doesn't mean it's different just because you manifest it differently. You gave it to him. He gave it to me. Okay.
I'm so not surviving this.
Joining us now, House Speaker Mike Johnson. Mr. Speaker, thank you. Good to have you on this morning.
Always good to be with you. Thanks.
We're feeling pessimistic. I don't know. Maybe you can talk us out of it. But does it look like at this point this will not be averted, the shutdown?
You know me, I'm an optimist, but I'm a little skeptical this morning. Whether or not the government shuts down at midnight is entirely up to two people. It's Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries, primarily Chuck Schumer. I want to tell you that I spent time with them yesterday. Of course, we were in the Oval Office. They are pursuing a very reckless strategy right now. And for the life of me, I cannot understand what they hope to accomplish other than giving themselves temporary political cover from the far left portion of their base, who are demanding that they fight Trump. There is no basis whatsoever for them to oppose this continuing resolution. What we put on the floor and what we passed through the House, what is sitting on the desk at the Senate right now for Chuck Schumer to pass, is a clean continuing resolution. There's no partisan riders or policy riders added to it at all. It's 24 pages in length. It is a simple measure to keep the government open so that we can continue the appropriations process. It's done in good faith, and I will say this, Joe, it's exactly what Democrats all voted for 13 times during the Biden administration. Now they don't want to do it because they want to fight Trump, and a lot of good people are going to be hurt because of this.
Mr. Speaker, at that meeting yesterday, did they present, and I don't know how much you can talk about what went on, but did they give the Democrats an entire wish list of things? Did they say they want health care for illegal immigrants and, I don't know, funding, some TVs? They said we want all these things.
Yes, and they put it in writing because remember, they filed a counter-proposal continuing resolution. We filed a 24-page clean CR. They filed a dirty CR as a counter-proposal, included in it, and they brought this up in the meeting yesterday. They want to restore taxpayer-funded benefits, American taxpayer-funded benefits to illegal aliens, okay? We're not doing that. We got rid of that in our One Big Beautiful Bill. We're not going back to that policy. This was a big issue in the election last fall. American taxpayers are not supposed to fund people who break the law coming into the country illegally. They're demanding that as a condition of their votes. They also want to gut the $50 billion that we included in our legislation, have already passed, signed into law, to protect rural hospitals. They want to claw that money back, inexplicably. They want to give the Corporation for Public Broadcasting $500 million, $500 million, to prop up these left-leaning media organizations that we defunded. I don't think, and the American people don't think, that taxpayers should be funding that in the age of ubiquitous media coverage and so many options. So all these things that they're trying to cram into a very simple, remember the terms of this, 7 weeks. We're only buying until November 21st, again, to allow the appropriations process to continue. And I think this is very important. We've talked about this on the program before. I've been trying very hard since I became Speaker 2 years ago to force the Congress back into the regular appropriations process. And why is that so important? Because that's how you act as a good steward of the precious resources of American taxpayers. And we've done it. I mean, this is a great report, right? The House Appropriations Committee, in a bipartisan fashion, worked and passed 12 separate appropriations bills through committee, 3 off the House floor. The Senate passed 3 bills off the floor. They don't match up exactly. And so remember the Saturday morning cartoon, I'm just a bill on Capitol Hill? You know how it's supposed to work? Now, when the 2 chambers measures don't agree, they get together, they work it out. All that is in process, but we run out of clock because this is the end of the fiscal year.
In negotiations,
so we just need more time, and that's what this is.
In negotiation, it's always great to ask for all these things, you know, and I can't really believe it's that they really expect to get those things, but I think they are trying to get something, Mr. Speaker. And I'm wondering how does this get reconciled? And is it have to do with the ACA and these subsidies? And what does a final deal look like? What do you say? We'll do it we'll do it through the appropriations process. We'll do it the right way. You just got to trust us, or what are they going to ask for them to say, okay, we'll do it? I just don't see that path. Do you?
No, and that's a red herring. Okay, they're grasping at straws. They're trying to make a political issue out of something that doesn't exist. What they're talking about with the ACA subsidies and these other issues, these are end of the year decisions. We have until the end of December. December 31 is when that expires, not today. So they're trying to make December policy issues. They're trying to make that the issue of today, when today's issue is whether or not we're going to keep the government open on a temporary basis so that the lawmakers here can do their work. We'll have plenty of time for all the policy debates. That's part of the process. That's what we do here. But you have to keep the government open to do it. I would credit President Trump for calling us into the Oval Office yesterday. He's operating in good faith. There is no daylight at all between the President of the United States and the Republican majorities in the House and Senate. We're all united. We want to keep the government open. We have done our work. The House passed the bill, bipartisan, by the way. We had one Democrat join us, okay? But they have to have 60 votes in the Senate. Chuck Schumer's got to release a handful of people to come along to do the right thing and keep the doors open for the country. What happens if they don't? This is really important. I mean, the markets will be rattled, I'm sure, because of the uncertainty that we don't need to be adding into this. You'll have a delay of the BLS jobs report is due October 3rd. That will be delayed. But importantly, real services, real benefits that the American people depend upon. Troops won't be paid. TSA agents won't be paid. The WIC program, the Women, Infants, and Children Nutrition Program, and other food services will be delayed. FEMA services won't be provided. We have 2 hurricanes off the coast of the United States right now. I mean, we're in the middle of hurricane season. This is serious stuff. And Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries are playing politics with all these people in the American People Services. And they're willing to do it for political cover. That's the game. They can't face their far left base. When they come on the program today, I think you're having them both. Ask Chuck Schumer what his real motivation is. He'll try to tell you it's about, these issues that end at the end of the calendar year, December 31. But what it's really about, he's running from AOC and the socialist base of their party who are going to challenge him in his next election. They said he didn't fight Trump when he did the right thing back in March and did a temporary funding measure, and now he's got to fight. And it's shameful. It really is.
Speaker Johnson, I'm not a fan of government shutdowns, whether it's the Democrats or the Republicans that are trying to do it, for all the reasons that you just laid out. We do have Hakeem Jeffries coming up in about 15 minutes on the program. Let me try and channel what I think we'll hear from him based on what I've been seeing and reading in other places. They're going to say that they care about the ACA, and even though that deadline's not till December 31st, they don't trust the Republicans to actually shake on a deal now and then come back and negotiate fairly later. What would you say to them on that point? They feel like this is their biggest leverage point, that this is the one point that they can actually say, no, you have to listen to us, and you have to listen to us now.
It's not a leverage point. They've concocted it to try to make an argument, okay? Again, that provision of the ACA that they're talking about doesn't expire until the end of December, not September 30th, December 31. That is an eternity in politics to be able to resolve something. In the meeting in the Oval Office yesterday, Leader Thune was talking to Schumer and Jeffries about the issue, and he said, if indeed there is going to be any extension of that, there has to be real reforms to it, because it is a broken system. It is basically the American taxpayers subsidizing insurance companies. Premiums continue to go up because Obamacare is a flawed system, okay? There has to be reform. That's not something you can negotiate in a couple of days. That's going to take all the month of October or November, assuming that we could even reach agreement on that. So they're trying to force that in because it's the only thing that they can come on the air and argue about. But they know that deadline is not today. They're trying to make a December policy debate the issue of the day, and that's not true. Today, all we got to do is keep the government open. When the president was in the Oval Office, he told them very simply, listen, your first and most basic responsibility is to keep the government open. Open the government, and then we'll have all the discussions. You guys can go squabble about the policy debates as you always do. But right now, that is a red herring. It really is, and everybody who's watching this understands that. What is the potential room for agreement when it comes to the ACA? We've heard a lot about it. You just said that there need to be pretty serious changes to that. I think what I've heard is that a cap for who can qualify for that, a dollar cap on how much income you make to be able to do those things. But there are some Republicans, particularly some Republican senators, who want to see those changes. They're up for election, and they're worried about what it will mean if their constituents start paying much higher bills starting January 1st. Yeah, look, there's a lot of discussion to be had. There's also a large number of members in the House who are very concerned that, for example, Hyde protections don't apply to those provisions. I mean, there's a lot of changes that need to be made, and we have the time to do that. I mean, we have the entire month of October, even November, to have all those discussions, and December if it takes that long. But it's an issue that people are ready to debate, but we're not going to do that today. It can't happen today. It's too complicated, too complex to do it. And Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer know that. Okay, it's the only thing that they could grasp at a straw and pull in and try to pretend that that's what this is about. This is about one thing. Remember, this is exactly the same thing that Chuck Schumer voted for in March and came out and told everybody he had to. It was necessary. He was correct. He was actually being honest in March. He's not being honest with you right now. And I never second guess the motives of my colleagues. Look, I believe in civility and working with everybody. Hakeem Jeffries and I are friends. We have a great relationship of trust, okay? But I'm telling you that their political position right now is pure politics. And they're doing this for Chuck Schumer's backside, not for the American people. And they are willing to inflict pain to do that, and it's really sad.
In the big, beautiful bill, and we know, probably shouldn't use the D word, but a lot of the Medicaid discussions were demagogued about what was actually happening. They're not really cuts. They're slowing down the growth in Medicaid. But that does resonate with parts of the country. And in fact, I think even Republicans were going to rebrand the name of that, I don't know, to some tax cut legislation or something. Is there enough political capital there for Democrats where they can say, look, it was so bad what these, throw grandma off the cliff. It's so bad what these Republicans did in that big, beautiful bill that we're standing up for you to get back these Medicaid cuts. Will that work in terms of PR? Or who wins this? Whose shutdown does this become?
There's no way that wins, because here's why. The CBO, okay, the organization they love to rely upon, came out with a study 3 or 4 weeks ago. And they said that the changes that we made in Medicaid have actually had the desired effect. They have brought premiums down. We've got tens of millions of people who were not properly enrolled in the programs off the programs now. We're not giving the benefits to illegal aliens anymore. We've saved $185 billion in fraud, waste, and abuse in Medicaid. Okay, it was a terribly flawed program. What we did in the One Big Beautiful Bill is we shored it up. We eliminated fraud, waste, and abuse so that the program was stronger for the people who it's actually intended to serve. That was the whole point. Medicaid was created to help low-income, single moms and persons with disability and the elderly. But you had able-bodied workers riding the wagon. We talked about it in detail on the show. We have gotten those able-bodied young men off the program. So it's actually sustained and strengthened the program. That is the facts. The CBO says it, not Republican talking points, okay? So we're delighted to have that debate, and we're going to have that debate all the way into the election next year. I am very bullish. I am absolutely convinced Republicans are going to win, have a great election cycle. We're going to grow our House majority, so my job's a little bit easier every day. And the reason we are is because the facts are on our side. They are using red herrings right now to try to change the subject. Democrats should do the right thing, the thing they did, again, 13 times during the Biden administration. We didn't shut the government down during the entire 4 years of Biden. You know why? Because we did the right thing in the minority, and when we were in the minority, and we did not shut the government down. They need to do that now.
Can I offer anything to Leader? Or can we offer anything to Leader Jeffries? We were going to get this all settled today. That was all what we were. Our fantasy was we were going to go to the country, get this done before 9 o'clock. what should we say to Leader Jeffries about, I don't know, how do we satisfy what, obviously all those things that you brought up, that's not going to happen. Do you think there's one thing that would induce the Democrats to do this?
Well, you know what? Just the facts. I mean, I wish that you would take half of his interview time and play him the highlight reel that I put out on social media of all the Democrats, Schumer, Jeffries, all of them saying shutdowns are the worst thing that could ever possibly happen. We all have a duty, a responsibility, our most basic duty to do that. AOC herself went on the House floor, that's in the highlight reel, and she said, it's not normal to shut the government down when you don't get exactly what you want. Exactly. I mean, I never agree with them on anything, but those statements were exactly right. You should play his own words back to him and ask him what's changed. The only thing that's changed today, I'm telling you, it's about politics. They're afraid of the far left corners of their base, and they have to show that they're putting up a fight. At what cost? Real Americans are going to be harmed by this, and it is infuriating to me that they're willing to do it. You know, you should ask Hakeem about that. Ask him about the people who are going to suffer because of this crazy political decision. It is reckless, and they need to come to their senses and do the right thing. They painted themselves into a corner here. They need to admit that, keep the government open, and then we'll have all these policy debates. That's what the process is for.
Speaker, I got a question for you. Comes from a Republican viewer who just send a note. I don't know this person.
One of Andrew's Republican viewers.
No. So. But it's an interesting question. It's not actually on this topic, but it's related, I think, to the degree that there's a schism between Democrats and Republicans. And this viewer says that you have been actively speaking out against lawfare for a very long time and wants to know your perspective on the indictment of Comey and wants to know your perspective on the president's comments about his plans or wishes for the Department of Justice to go after George Soros and potentially Reid Hoffman and other people that he thinks of as his opponents or enemies.
Well, listen, I came off of the House Judiciary Committee. That's where I served for almost 8 years before I became Speaker, 7 years. And we did the full analysis. We had hearings over and over to determine how that lawfare came about, how the Department of Justice really, frankly, in my view, was corrupted under the Biden administration. And it began even before that. The dirty Russian dossier, all the things from the 2016 election that were concocted. James Comey was involved in all of that, okay? And he came to Congress and he raised his hand and took an oath, and he lied to Congress. I mean, he lied about what he knew when he knew it. That's a serious problem. He's a former FBI director, and you have to have sure there's accountability to this. And so the indictment, remember, was by a grand jury, not a Republican, partisan group. A grand jury was seated. They reviewed the evidence, as prosecutors do in our system, and they determined that there was reason to bring those charges. So we'll see.
Speaker, just to put a fine point on it, though, my understanding is that the previous prosecutor refused to bring the case because they didn't think it was a strong enough case, if you will, to even bring to a grand jury. And
yes,
so you have a situation where the president effectively directed their own lawyer to bring that case.
Well, I wouldn't say that. I think there is a distinction between the prosecutor's discretion, and they all have that. Different prosecutors look at different cases different ways, but that's why we have a grand jury, okay? It's not just the unilateral decision of one person. They put it to a jury of the defendant's peers.
It's a grand jury.
The grand jury decided that these charges were merited, and so we'll have to see how it shakes out.
All right. Mr. Speaker, we got to end it there. They're wrapping us. I mean, this is about this. This is about the shut. I mean, go for it, but this is like, you can ask about saying prayers on the floor of the House or something. I mean, this is sort of off topic, is it? I mean, I know it's the Trump, but.
Well, no, I think there's viewers who are watching us who were asking about.
That was a viewer.
They asked about
It wasn't you.
They asked about George Soros and Reid Hoffman and some of these other people that we talk about on the air.
Okay, go for it. You got one more? What else? They're telling me to thank him. You sure? Mr. Speaker.
American people, don't get me started on that.
All right. See you later. Thanks for your time this morning.
Don't go anywhere. The View from the other side of the aisle. The Democrats' leader in the House, Representative Hakeem Jeffries.
That one big ugly bill actually stole food from the mouths of hungry children and seniors and veterans, and all of this was done so that Republicans could reward their billionaire donors with massive tax breaks and in the process skyrocket the deficit by north of $3 trillion.
Squawk Pod will be right back. You're listening to Squawk Pod from CNBC. Here's Becky Quick.
Up and Becky, Q.
We just heard from House Speaker Mike Johnson about the potential for a government shutdown happening later tonight. Joining us right now to discuss it all is House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries. And, sir, thank you for being with us today. I'm not sure if you heard what Leader Johnson had to say on some of these issues, but if you didn't, I'll kind of give it back to you. He said that this is a clean, continuing resolution that's been put forth. It's the same thing that the Democrats voted for 13 times under Biden, that this would keep the House open, you could continue, would keep the government open, you could continue to negotiate. And he said that this is being done for pure politics, for Chuck Schumer's backside, I think were his exact words on this. Would you care to respond to that, sir?
Well, that's all a lie. It's not a clean, continuing resolution. In December of last year, Democrats and Republicans actually passed a bipartisan bill that was signed into law by President Joe Biden and also had the blessing of then President-elect Donald Trump. That is the actual baseline of a bipartisan agreement. What the Republicans are attempting to continue at this point in time is a March partisan Republican spending bill that Democrats in the House of Representatives overwhelmingly rejected because we viewed it as an attack on veterans, an attack on child care, an attack on housing affordability, and an attack on the health care of the American people. It's not a bipartisan spending agreement. It was a Trump partisan spending agreement. And we've been very clear as Democrats that we are ready, willing, and able to try to find a bipartisan path forward to reach a spending agreement that actually meets the needs of the American people in terms of their health, their safety, and their economic well-being, particularly in an environment where the cost of living in this country is already too high, America is too expensive, and Republicans haven't lowered costs. Costs are increasing. But we will not support a partisan Republican spending bill that continues to gut the health care of the American people.
He said on the health care front that there is room for negotiation with the ACA, but he said that that deadline is not until December 31st when the existing tax benefits would fall off. He says that that should be negotiated separately and that they won't do it while there's a shutdown of the government. He also went on to say that this is in writing and from the Democrats, that they want health care for illegal immigrants to be part of this. They want to gut $50 billion that was included in the big, beautiful bill for rural hospitals, and that they want money there for corporate public broadcasting as part of this, too.
The one big, ugly bill represented the largest attack on Medicaid in American history, the largest cut ever. Hospitals, nursing homes, community-based health clinics are closing all across America as a result, including in rural parts of the country. That one big ugly bill actually stole food from the mouths of hungry children and seniors and veterans. And all of this was done so that Republicans could reward their billionaire donors with massive tax breaks and in the process skyrocket the deficit by north of $3 trillion. It was entirely irresponsible. It hurts everyday Americans who we should be standing up for in order to reward the wealthiest people amongst us. That's not an acceptable thing. And that's the climate and the environment that we're walking into. That said, we, of course, are willing to try to find that bipartisan common ground. But the urgency as it relates to the Affordable Care Act tax credits relates to the fact that beginning tomorrow, notices are going to go out to tens of millions of Americans. And it's going to be clear to them that their premiums, copays, and deductibles are about to skyrocket. Thousands of dollars in additional expense in an environment where life is already too expensive for the overwhelming majority of the American people.
Is it true that you want to restore American taxpayer benefits to illegal immigrants?
Of course not. And thank you for asking that question, because this is also an outright lie. Federal law prohibits the use of taxpayer dollars to provide medical coverage to undocumented individuals. That's the law. And there is nothing in anything that we have proposed that is trying to change that law. We are fighting for the health care of the American people, fighting to deal with the Republican health care crisis, which included the largest cut to Medicaid in American history. It includes the fact that Republicans have refused to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits time and time again, putting in jeopardy the health care of tens of millions of Americans. It's the fact that Medicare is going to face a $536 billion cut at the end of this year if Congress doesn't act because of what Republicans did in the One Big Ugly Bill. Our fight relates to the fact that hospitals and nursing homes and community-based health clinics are closing. No one in America, the wealthiest country in the history of the world, this great country of ours, should die because they can't find a bed or a room at a hospital because their hospital has closed as a result of what has happened with this Republican healthcare crisis. And on top of all of that, we see that Republicans have actually launched an assault on medical research in the United States of America in the Republican appropriations bill that is part of this process.
Minority Leader, let me just ask you, I'm going back and just looking at this. I think the questions about illegal immigrants getting these benefits go back to a term that's in your proposal that you've put forth that says legally present immigrants are eligible for all of these subsidies. And there's a big question about what lawfully present means. Does that refer to people who are here under the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals programs? I guess there's different descriptions of what people see. What does that mean to you, a lawful preference? Would it refer to DACA?
We had a meeting with the President of the United States yesterday and made clear, we're not trying to change current law. We are fighting to protect the health care of the American people. In rural America, in suburban America, in urban America, in small town America, in the heartland of America, in black and brown communities all across America. That's what we're doing. That's what this fight is about. Mike Johnson, but we have a very positive, forward-looking, communicative relationship, but he's been making the point that healthcare is an extraneous issue. No, healthcare is not an extraneous issue. It is a central issue to the quality of life of the American people. We don't want to shut the government down. That's not our approach. But Republicans control the House, the Senate, and the presidency. If the government shuts down, it's their decision to do it.
But this is a continuing resolution, and it's going to happen. All these things that you want to do, there's no way any of them are going to be negotiated by the time this happens. And if you shut down the government, you last time, Democrats point out, you lose FEMA, you lose troop pay, you lose all these different things that are so important to Democrats when they're on the other side of this. If you're not going to get all these other things settled, you need to do the CR to get the government funded and then return to this and do it in the normal course of business for Congress. What is it that would get you to yes? I mean, and I think that you kind of danced around the illegal. You do want to provide health care to illegal immigrants that are here right now.
That's a Republican talking point, and it's shameful that you would continue. Of course not. I just said repeatedly that it is not. And we made that clear in the Oval Office to President Trump and to Republican leaders. We've made that clear repeatedly. It's a Republican talking point. In fact, I'm being gentle. It's a lie. We are fighting for the health care of the American people. And what we need to do is to address the Republican health care crisis.
What do you need by tonight to get
I'll tell you what we need by tonight. Speaker Johnson should call Republican members of Congress back from the vacation that they're on. They were supposed to be here. We were supposed to have votes yesterday and today so that we can actually arrive at a bipartisan agreement to keep the government funded and to do it in a way that actually enhances the quality of life of the American people. So that would actually be a useful first step.
Do you think the government is going to shut down? Because it doesn't look like there's much give on either side.
Well, we're here. We're in Washington, D.C. We look forward to having conversations throughout the day with the administration and with our Republican counterparts to try to arrive at a bipartisan agreement. But what we're not going to do is be part of essentially a my way or the highway approach. In other words, that Republicans simply say, our view of the country is that we're going to continue to assault the health care of the American people, and Democrats, you should just go along with it. And our view is no, actually, we're not going to support a partisan Republican spending bill that continues to gut the health care of the American people.
There was some big pushback from the Progressive Caucus in the House yesterday when Chuck Schumer floated the idea of, a way around this, a way to say, okay, we could start the Democratic shutdown, but then we could make sure we pass some bills to allow much of the government funding to continue. How much pushback do you get from the Progressive Caucus in the House, and what are they telling you at this point? Are they the ones who are kind of driving things?
We had a House Democratic Caucus meeting yesterday, and we are completely unified in defense of protecting the health care of the American people and fighting to lower the high cost of living. Donald Trump and Republicans promised to lower costs on day one. But costs aren't going down, they're going up. The Trump tariffs are adding thousands of dollars in additional expense to everyday Americans. Electricity bills are going up. Housing costs continue to go up. Grocery bills are going up. And of course, health care premiums, copays, and deductibles are about to skyrocket. Millions of Americans in this country actually are going to confront medical bankruptcy. Our view is that is not acceptable. And so I think what Leader Schumer said yesterday at our joint press conference, he was very clear that a short-term continuing resolution that differs in any way from what Democrats have proposed, which was legislation that was introduced and actually secured more votes in the Senate about a week ago than the partisan Republican proposal, that is our starting point in terms of any conversation as it relates to making sure we fund the government in an enlightened way that makes sense for everyday Americans, for business, for industry, for the economy.
Yesterday, sir, in the caucus that you're referring to, I think the shouts were heard outside the doors of hell no. Does that tell you the resolve? Should we read into that there is no way you were going to go ahead with this and we should buckle up and prepare for a long government shutdown?
We have a little over 12 hours or so before midnight. I think what will be helpful is if Republicans in the House of Representatives actually return for duty here in the Congress, so that if we reached an agreement, we could actually pass an agreement, as opposed to Republicans being on vacation all across the country and the world. That makes no sense to me. It never did. And it's an indication that I think House Republicans actually are the ones who want to shut the government down.
Minority Leader, while we have you here, and I know you're busy working on keeping the government open, hopefully, but a question here in New York, we're all very curious. Do you plan to endorse the Democratic frontrunner at this point? I know there's been some reporting that you're in talks to do something like that.
Well, I issued a statement on Sunday, I believe it was, in connection with the decision by Mayor Eric Adams not to seek re-election. He's someone that I've known for over 25 years. He's had a long journey in public service. Actually, Mayor Adams and I started our careers at the same time, him in the state Senate and myself in the state Assembly. And I respect his contributions to the city of New York, his contributions as mayor, and of course before that as state senator, and perhaps even most importantly, as someone who wore the uniform to protect and serve. I also indicated in that statement that I'm focused right now, laser-like, on avoiding a government shutdown and making sure we address the Republican healthcare crisis, and that I would have more to say about the mayor's race and the remaining candidates sometime soon.
Okay, well, come on back, and hopefully we'll get a chance to talk about that as well. We wish you luck over the next 12 hours, and we can all, cross our fingers.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And that is Squawk Pod for today. As the government funding deadline comes ever closer, please follow this podcast for the latest news and newsmaking interviews with the key players in Washington. Squawk Box is hosted by Joe Kernen, Becky Quick, and Andrew Ross Sorkin. Tune in weekday mornings on CNBC at 6 Eastern. Listen to this podcast, share this podcast with a friend, and we'll meet you right back here tomorrow.
We are clear. Thanks, guys.